My name is Gina Ross. Being a craftsman is a very important part of who I am. When I am creating a new piece of furniture, I am in total contact with my inner self, allowing the wood to guide the design. Each piece becomes a part of me as I build it. As I share with you my relationships to several philosophers, I will share with you a snapshot of my life and a few of the projects that I have designed and crafted over the years. My family is an extension of me, which enabled me to share this side of me too. This is who I am. Every venture that I have ever undertaken has required opening my mind up to a whole new line of thought. I never grew up wanting to be a woodworker, but when I had the wooden tools in my hands, it was as natural as getting dressed. And giving every circumstance that is put in front of me the very best, by staying in the moment and allowing the most positive experiences to be my focus, I have been able to build my values on a strong foundation. My connection with my higher power is a guiding light, leading on to new sources of knowledge which feed my soul. I was a very shy and introverted child and spent my early years living in a dysfunctional home. At the age of 15, I moved away and became an emancipated minor, with a job and an apartment of my own. My eyes were now open to a whole new world. My search for a better life had begun. I soon left the state and spent a few years traveling. I married young, as most women did back then, and had 3 beautiful children. This was a turning point for me. My life was focused and committed to protecting and providing for my children. I had experienced great satisfaction with this being my primary job. This was a turning point for me. My life was focused and committed to protecting and providing for them. As a child, Buddha was so protected from the world that when he finally saw the pain and suffering that was going on, his eyes were opened to a whole new world. He saw it with much more depth than someone who had grown up knowing how life was. His life was instantly changed. I have had some moments in my life that have opened my eyes just as wide to pain and suffering. It was so shocking that my vision of the world was never the same. A few examples of those events are the day my home burned to the ground, and I had 3 children and no insurance. Another of those moments happened when my son was the victim of a drunk driver and left in a persistent vegetative state for 2 hours short of 4 years. Then another moment was when I realized the condition of our medical institution, and I actually had the information that could make some necessary improvements. In an instant, my view of the world had been changed. I seem to have had these turning points in my life that have taken me onto a different path each time. A few years ago, I was fortunate to stumble across a woodworking company that needed a manager. I quickly learned to run the antique machines that were used in the late 1800s. The machines were run-off leather belts which were originally powered with a water-power generator. The power from the generator was being fed directly to the power company when I worked there. The machines were still operated with wide leather belts, but powered off motors which hung from the ceilings under the floor. The hum of the machines, along with the roar of the waterfall, allowed me to construct a world inside the building that was controlled by my own creative force. It wasn't long until I was specializing in custom work. I look back at those days and realized that I had walked into that company with no background in woodworking or running machines, or even running a company. Soon, I was not only the manager of the company, but the master craftsman who actually designed and produced handcrafted custom work. I've always felt that as I had no experience with woodworking, that some higher power had taken over my hands and did the work for me. I never forgot to say thank you at the end of the day. When I read about Martin Luther, I realize I had come to that same place that he had. I do have a direct connection with my higher power. I am not one to attend church very often, as I feel that I live my beliefs, and that to me is more important than going to church. When I acquire new information about something, I enjoy sharing the knowledge by teaching my skills to those who have an appetite for learning them. Woodworking was the perfect subject for me, as my passion with wood runs deep. I have unconsciously adopted Socrates' teaching style allowing the students to come to terms with the information on their own. For 2 years, I taught an adult education program called Bear Camp Valley Woodwrights. With 2 of us teaching the class, we were able to divide the responsibilities. Bob liked to stand up and lecture, while I would work the back of the room and locate someone who looked lost or puzzled. Engaging that person in a discussion while the demonstration was going on allowed the student to really benefit from the learning process. Having lived in a small community for a few years now, I realize the definition of right and wrong is, in fact, defined by our community. Not that I feel the need to adopt all of my neighbors' thoughts and opinions, but I do need to have enough commonality to feel they are a part of my life. I believe that Protagoras of Abdera was correct in realizing the importance of our interaction in the community. It really does take a village to raise a child. Our community is an extension of our family. Whether in a family or out in the community, Kalikas was right. The strong dominate the weak. Whether one's strength comes from the physical ability, financial resources, or mental abilities, that person will take the lead. It seems like a natural flow of things when in a group, the person with strength always stands out and leads. Strength comes from within. Only attend to thyself, Marcus, and resolve to be a good man in every act which thou doest. And remember, look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if thou wilt ever dig. Life has presented me with circumstances that I felt needed attention. It took a few hard lessons to realize that Lao Tzu was right. Doing nothing and great things will be accomplished. To insist another person adopt my thoughts and opinions is an exercise in futility, especially when I have had to work really hard for something. I feel the need to make sure I share that information with others who may come across that same issue. Unless another person is open-minded and ready to receive information, getting the message across will not be successful. Then there are times when I have been consumed with a feeling of responsibility to take charge and make changes. We cannot always choose the circumstances we find ourselves in, but we can choose how we handle them. Buddha taught a notion of free will, a belief that we can control our thoughts, attitudes, and behaviors, have consequences. One day, just as I was feeling that I was achieving a bit of financial security, my home burnt to the ground. Without insurance, it was time to start over. This time, the entire community came together like an old-fashioned barn raising and helped us rebuild. We need to accept what is beyond our control. At the same time, we need to take what we have, and with a positive attitude, we can turn what looks like a really terrible experience and turn it into one of the most positive, life-changing experiences of our lives. Plato was left shaken when Socrates was put to death. He felt the charges and convictions unfounded, and Socrates was executed for nothing. The avenue of revenge that Plato took would change the government down to its very core. After my son passed away, I found myself being left with enough evidence, witnesses, and experience to try to change the medical system at its very core. Having no formal education, I decided to take on the state of New Hampshire Health and Human Services. It was a very difficult undertaking as they have sovereign immunity. Not only did I need to learn the law, but I also needed to know how to interact with those much more scholarly than I. With determination and the motivation from seeing more suffering than any one person should ever experience firsthand, the brain injured were finally able to receive hospice benefits. No longer did these people need to live their last moments in pain. It took 3.5 years for me to convince those in power that if you force someone to live through unnatural means, you have an obligation to keep them out of pain. I enjoyed doing my research project on Senator Seneca as he worked through the justice system and changed things from within. It seems life circumstances appear without warning or instruction or the necessary training. Decisions must be made. The only way for me to accomplish any of these things is to visualize, stay focused, and have faith in my deep connection to my higher power, which allows creativity to flow and the ability to stay in the moment and leave myself open to new ideas. Martin Luther realized that each individual has their own connection with their higher power and does not need a church as a vessel for that relationship. There have been more people killed over religion than any other reason. So many people are concerned over the nuances of religion that they forget to stop and look at the big picture. What is the true purpose? My soul is the very essence of who I am. Over the years, I have experienced several life-altering events, causing me to believe that my past experiences have become a part of who I am. The past represents the molding process from which my inner self, my soul, has been carved. I have a solid connection with my higher power, my soul. Self to me is constantly searching to deepen my relationships and of course deepen my knowledge of not only the world around me, but also to deepen my soul.